The video is called Ethan Klein Thinks He's Smarter Than Jordan Peterson and Healthier Than Joe Rogan. For those of you guys that don't know, for a completely unbiased and not bullshit version of the story that I imagine Blaire White is about to tell, let me tell you exactly what happened in a completely unbiased manner. Ethan Klein has a podcast called the H3H3 Podcast. It's a pretty big deal. Joe Rogan has a podcast called the Joe Rogan Experience. It's a huge fucking deal. It's the biggest podcast ever. Joe Rogan is known to be sort of like a dude bro type, you know, like that's kind of like his reputation. He platforms a lot of misinformation and conservative figures, and it's caused the left to have a sort of negative opinion of him. And so since Ethan Klein has started to become much more left-leaning recently, he's kind of fired some shots at Joe Rogan insofar as his health is concerned, because Joe Rogan's sort of a roided up ape of a man. And of course, Jordan Peterson was previously a guest on Ethan Klein's show on H3H3's podcast. However, this was years ago, back when H3H3 wasn't as informed politically and didn't have the knowledge or wherewithal to push back against the, now in hindsight, blatant misinformation that Jordan Peterson was pushing, that unfortunately, H3H3 was platforming. Realizing this, Ethan Klein then decided to voluntarily, without any provocation, cancellation, or what have you, to delete his old podcasts featuring Jordan Peterson. These were extremely high view videos that when you delete a video with that many views off your channel, it really hits your fucking channel in the algorithm. It's like shooting yourself in the thigh, okay? Insofar as YouTube channel health is concerned, okay? It's a big deal. So that's what he did. Jordan Peterson got pretty mad. Ethan Klein was like, I did it because you spread misinformation about Bill C-16 in that video, among other things. Bill C-16 was like the main one, because that's like the Bill C-16 and the narrative around it was what Jordan Peterson built his career on, and it was all a lie. So that's why most people jump to that immediately. Anyway, it's now resulted in the right completely dunking and shitting on Ethan Klein, which isn't really anything new. They've been doing it for a while now, particularly now that he's friends with Hassan Piker. So I guess now Blaire White's throwing her hat into the ring. And we're going to go ahead and dunk on Blaire White a little bit.
Back to my channel. I'm feeling very virginal in this outfit today. I'm feeling very much like, you know, a bride being given off to her husband, or a bride of Chucky, depending on if you fucking hate me. Let's get into it. Ethan Klein, also known as H3H3, which sounds like a highly infectious STD, has been going off recently on two particular individuals, Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan. We're going to split this video into two halves. The first half talking about his attacks, although I would say they're more like brutal self-owns launched toward Jordan Peterson, and the second half will be his brutal self-owns on Joe Rogan. Ethan went off on Jordan Peterson on Twitter recently, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I have chafing just from reading these tweets. He also went back and deleted videos of an interview he did with Jordan Peterson from years back, in my opinion, out of the fear of being canceled by his own woke audience, which he does pander to, which he does and has cultivated throughout the years. Because Ethan, in my opinion, as sort of like...
I love it, dude. If they do it voluntarily, like, you literally can never, ever, like, make these people happy if you're a progressive. Was that JBP vaping? That was him smoking weed. They were using like a hookah type deal, I think, that vaporizes weed and like the vape that I used to use. You guys remember the old dry herb vape that I used to use, where I had to pack like actual weed into the thing and then it vaporized it into clouds? I think that's what they were using. You can never please these people if you're a progressive. Conservatives will nonstop call out people on the left for not living by their ideals. Like, if you're a progressive content creator that happens to make a good amount of money from ad revenue and donations, and you get like a nice house or something, they'll shit talk you and say, oh, I thought you think rich people need to be taxed more. What do you want me to do? Over-report my income to the IRS so a larger amount of it, so the IRS takes more of it? Like, what do you want me to do? I can't make the IRS take more of my money. What the fuck do you want me to do? Like, how am I being hypocritical for saying tax the rich? But anyway, they'll say that, And then when you see an instance of a progressive YouTuber acting on their beliefs voluntarily without provocation or anything like that, or any pressure, deleting an extraordinarily popular, like one of, I think the most popular episode of the H3H3 podcast might have been that one, deleting probably the most, if not one of the most popular episodes of his podcast, just to remain consistent in his ideology. And they're getting mad about it because you can never please these people. Never let these people trick you into thinking they're acting in good faith, and they are in, and that at every point where they act like they're behaving sincerely, they don't secretly have a smug DreamWorks smile on underneath that fake mask that they're putting on for you. They've got that smug DreamWorks smile on. They're trying to punk you, and they know it. None of them are in good faith. They're all liars.
Like a casual, every once in a while viewer of his stuff, is definitely one of those people who shapeshifts into whatever is trendy and socially acceptable at the time in terms of his content. He used to be way edgier.
I love that I can just say though. I love saying
way more anti-SJW, anti-woke, whatever you want to call it, whatever label you want to put on.
Look, it's like reassertion of the point that I made before. Conservatives literally demonize the concept of changing your opinions when new data, new facts, whatever, come up to contradict your current worldview. They literally demonize it. That's literally the conservative brain rot. It's the definition of cognitive dissonance. They think it's a bad thing if you change your mind upon being convinced. In reality, they just think it's a bad thing if you change your mind upon being convinced that the left is correct. They're just salty about losing a large figure like H3H3 as insofar as political support goes in this whole online culture war bullshit sphere we exist in.
On it. And now he's definitely the exact opposite. When it was more popular and trendy to be anti-SJW, edgy, whatever, you can bet your ass he was that. And now that it's more popular to be woke and super politically correct,
it is not more popular to be woke now.
And these types of people always give the excuse of, well, I've evolved, I've grown, I've learned more. It's funny how they always evolve, grow, and learn more in the exact direction that gets them more popularity. Or
Here's like a good way to like gauge whether or not the left is doing well online. If the right is saying the left is dominant online, then the right is dominant online. If the right is saying the left is, or the right is dominant online, the left is probably dominant online. It's usually like exact opposite. That's what I always find. Because when they're on their rise, the narrative that they always really like to push whenever their content is really getting into the algorithm and is really picking up with people is that the lefty ideas are the mainstream. You want to fight against the mainstream and be counterculture, you got to be a conservative. Here's the red pill. This is the real shit. Don't be an NPC. Although NPC was a bit more recent than red pill and was a little bit after my radicalization.
Or is more socially acceptable, never in the opposite way. Like, they never all of a sudden have more controversial opinions or become more edgy. It's always with the wind, you know what I mean? So anyway,
yes,
Ethan tweeted,
being an online
years ago,
figure.
I interviewed Jordan Peterson before I was very familiar with his politics. He was an interesting guest who I enjoyed sitting with. So right off the bat, this is just a lie. Jordan Peterson, at the time that Ethan interviewed him, was only popular for his takes on trans issues, which are definitely perceived to be...
Wait, this is a lie. This is literally a lie. It is true that he blew up in popularity based on trans issues, but he already had a cult following before that due to his self-help stuff, no? Didn't he already have self-help books and self-help lectures out? He was a professor. He had classes. He did speaking events, did he not? He was already sort of a campus celebrity when that all dropped, right? Regardless, though, back when this interview happened between Ethan Klein and Jordan Peterson, I know for a fact that he was known for more than just the trans stuff. And I know for a fact because I watched that particular interview. It's one of the ways that I was introduced to Jordan Peterson. I say one of the ways because I sort of got introduced to him in chunks, little bits of sort of clips of him and mentions of him. until I eventually watched that whole podcast. And a lot of the stuff they discuss isn't even all that political, really. Like in hindsight, really isn't really all that much political, mostly like self-help, philosophical, like random, not really all that offensive, but they do get into some yikesy stuff. And all of it is misinformed and misrepresented by Jordan Peterson, of course. And Ethan Klein has been educated on those issues now and has decided he doesn't want to platform that misinformation. And I say that's a pretty Sigma move, in my opinion.
Be controversial by people who are more left of center. So this was literally his claim to fame. Jordan Peterson became known because of his opposition to Bill C-16 in Canada, which we can do a whole video about Bill C-16, but the long and short of it was Jordan Peterson's perspective was that people would start being fined or jailed for misgendering people, for using the wrong pronouns, and the opposite side believed it was just a bill that was to increase the human rights of trans people. That's the long and short of it. So this is what he was known for at the time. Ethan had to have known that this is what he was known for, was controversial takes on trans issues. So this, like, I didn't know anything about him. Like,
Okay. Oh, God, dude. Holy shit. I know Blaire White's stupid, but I didn't know she was this stupid. People change their opinions when they're exposed to new information. Also, I don't think guys, a lot of people don't remember, but I low-key don't blame people who were, for example, NB-phobic or even transphobic back in 2016 to, 2014, but are, cool now. Like, they get it now. They're on board now. I don't give them that much shit because back then, the information that validates, the knowledge, the arguments, the data, the information that validates trans people's identities just wasn't, I won't say it didn't exist, and I won't say it wasn't there. It just wasn't as accessible back then. The culture really pushed the whole guy in a dress, going into women's bathrooms to rape them narrative, right? The South Park PC principal arc season. Remember that? That was a big, that sort of season of South Park, I think, does a really good job of representing what the culture of both the internet and this country was at the time. And that was one of a moral panic over progressive people being too PC. And notice it's the exact same thing again. Only instead of complaining about political correctness and being PC, it's cancel culture now. But it's really just the same thing with a new name. And it's all happening all over again.
First of all, you probably shouldn't be interviewing people you know nothing about. And second of all...
guys. It's been about 13 days since I was in Texas, and my throat's been starting to feel a little itchy. If I actually get sick in the next day or two, 100% I got COVID while I was in Texas while traveling. Because I'm unironically, my throat and my lungs are starting to feel a little itchy, a little tickly, a little sussy.
That was the only thing people did know about him at the time. So what the are you talking about? The truth is he was fully aware of Jordan Peterson's politics. He just wanted the massive amount of views that this interview was going to bring him, and it did. And
Blaire White, you don't know how the YouTube algorithm works. If you delete a really hot, if you even unlist or private a really popular YouTube video, all those views get subtracted from your channel in the YouTube algorithm, and it hurts your channel significantly. What Ethan just did fucking crippled the H3H3 channel, or whatever channel that particular video is on. Whatever that channel that particular video was on probably is now crippled from losing that many views.
To this day, any interview Jordan Peterson does is going to get a massive amount of views. He is a very popular man. So you wanted the views, you wanted the money, but of course you don't have the integrity to say that. You're going to lie and say, well, I didn't know much about him. Girl, bye. He goes on to say, but especially now, I can see he's a dangerous gateway to alt-right, transphobia, and COVID misinfo. I removed both interviews today. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the man who ran a podcast with Trisha Paytas is clutching his pearls over harmful speech.
I will say though, associating in any positive way with Trisha Paytas is pretty sussy. Though I will say Ethan Klein did format his show in a somewhat it's not antagonistic, but there's pushback when there needs to be pushback on Ethan's part, I felt like. At least in the bits of that Frenemies podcast that I saw, Lonnie watched it more than I ever did. I like never sat down and watched it, but I like Lonnie would have it up on the TV and I'd watch it while it was on. I don't think it's still up anymore, but like I'd watch it sometimes with her, and it feels like Ethan would push back when he needed to push back. But I'll admit it is kind of a bad look to associate with somebody who has as evidently a shitty history as Trisha Paytas. Papa Gut showed me how bad Trisha Paytas was. Yeah. She's really weird about Jews. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right, Ethan said when he saw this part, that the difference is Jordan has people who genuinely believe him, etc. Trisha has never had a following where they follow her and what she does and believes it. I wonder if that's the case, though. I don't know. Like, I feel like some people might actually, like, look up to Trisha Paytas, like, but probably a very small amount of people. Trisha Paytas is, yeah, she fetishizes them, though, Gracie Gal. It's really sussy. It's really sussy-wussy. I watched a video on it with Lonnie last night, Gracie Gal.
Can't be all bad if he had this big following.
Found out about the Holocaust?
I had no idea.
I really love movies and books about the Holocaust.
What's the stereotype about Jews? Like, my cheap Jew boyfriend with a big nose. I don't say that.
Jewish people are cheap.
Oh, yeah,
But again,
here's
he
the
didn't
clips.
care because Trisha was making him a lot of money because at the time she was in the public's favor. So not only does this condemnation of Jordan Peterson that no one asked for, by the way, like no one was trying to cancel him for it.
Nope,
Not
that
only
was-
does it make
But that was literally just him living his principles.
Ethan look about as spineless as a jellyfish, his attacks on Peterson are also just not valid. First of all, if Jordan Peterson is the greatest sin, if Jordan Peterson is the gateway to being alt-right or being hateful, which by the way, I didn't know it was 2016, we were still using terms like alt-right, but okay.
Blaire White saying, "Oh, I didn't know it was 2016 still," because people are using the term alt-right, an actual political movement that is relevant today, with followers who have literally committed acts of terror all around the country very recently, up until very recently. God, she's so fucking stupid. Oh, God. Oh, Lord.
If someone as frankly apolitical as Jordan Peterson, because if you watch his content, he is almost always apolitical, but his actual content in his lectures are almost always, with some exceptions, apolitical. The majority of what Peterson talks about is self-help, self-improvement, getting your life together, philosophy, psychology, and he dips into politics sometimes, but to act as if that's the like whole sum of who and what he does, and then to say that it's radicalizing people or some sort of gateway, like we can just as easily say, Ethan, that you're a gateway towards what? Far leftism, communism, radicalism on the other side. Why?
Yes.
Is it only true ever of people right of center that they're too radical? And if Jordan Peterson is a gateway towards hate, what the fuck is this?
I love saying fact.
And I want to be very clear that this was
Why is the idea of people changing their opinions over time, like this was literally like 2016, 2017 if I remember correctly. Why is the idea of people changing their opinions so goddamn like you guys realize that clip of Ethan Klein is from 2016, right? That clip will haunt him forever. I mean, it was very stupid of him to say in the first place, but regardless, like, this is literally woke scold tier. Like, look at her right now. She's literally doing like the woke scold T hands. She's doing the woke scold T hands. You guys know what I mean? You guys see it, right? The woke scold T hands. I'm not the only one that sees it, right? Dude, the right literally appropriates every single negative aspect of the left when it suits them and they can get away with it. They'll accuse the left of something and do it. It's all projection. It's all fucking projection. All the way through and through.
was obviously done in a comedic context. I'm not one of those people that thinks that context does not matter when it comes to slurs or curse words or whatever. Obviously, he's not calling someone
Curse
that.
words.
It's done in a comedic context. I'm not personally mad. But going by your own standards here, if the benign, apolitical, self-help stuff Jordan Peterson does is a gateway to hate, then again, how can you claim that isn't? And
Okay, so for anyone here who isn't familiar on the argument about how Jordan Peterson could be a gateway to hate, basically the argument is
Welcome to capitalism,
and
Medina.
I agree with this argument to an extent. Thank you, V-Raptor. I agree with this argument to an extent. Jordan Peterson spreads a lot of misinformation, just outright. The Bill C-16 stuff, straight up misinformation. He's done it on multiple occasions. COVID stuff, he's spread misinformation on. Just without
Welcome
a
to
doubt, not
capitalism,
up
my
for
dude.
debate, not up for question, just misinformation. There's really no other way to describe it. Summarize your reign, thank you. There's really just no other way to say it other than it's misinformation. On top of that, he associates with a lot of people that are on the far right. There seems to be a lot of people, including myself, who have testimony talking about how starting out with seemingly benign content like Jordan Peterson led them to consuming content from the far right, and how they can trace their steps back to Jordan Peterson and content like that. I think that's probably why that narrative is out there, Blaire.
Perhaps Ethan's apologized for this, and if so, he definitely deserves to be forgiven. However, you just can't throw stones in a glass house. Let's move on to the transphobia accusation. He said that he's a gateway to transphobia, right? He said, your mischaracterization of Bill C-16 resulted in a surge of transphobia. The bill was created to add trans people as a protected group against.
Not true, actually. It did not add trans people to be a protected group against hate crimes. It simply added gender identity as a protected group. Generally, not just against hate crimes either. Basically, protected group means that you can't be denied service simply based on insert immutable characteristic you were born with. For example, a restaurant owner can't say no black people allowed. A landlord can't say no gay. I'm not renting to gay people. Et cetera. Right. So basically, banning that. So you could theoretically be a cis man who's being, say, harassed by your boss at work. Like your boss is like your feminist boss is calling you like a moid or something, in some theoretical backwards scenario, your crazy feminist boss is calling you a moid. You could theoretically sue your crazy feminist boss for discriminating against you as a man. It applied that standard equally across all bounds. And it's not like, oh, someone misgenders you on the street. Now, Jordan Peterson made it seem like, oh, if someone misgenders you on the street, you're going to go to jail. That's not how it works. Only upon repeated and insistent harassment based on that idea, on that identity, on that immutable characteristic, only on that, like, when it reaches the point of harassment, is it actually like something that can be acted upon legally. And as far as I'm aware, I don't think anyone's actually been like fucked over by Bill C-16, at least nobody who didn't deserve to get fucked over by Bill C-16, like as in they actually like did break the law.
Hate crimes. Using the wrong pronoun would not result in anyone going to jail. In fact, to this day, zero people have gone to jail. So don't even get me started with who is responsible for a surge in transphobia, because I have a pretty long list. Transphobia accusation. He said that he's a gateway to transphobia, right? He said, your mischaracterization of Bill C-16 resulted in a surge of transphobia. The bill was created to add trans people as a protected group against hate crimes. Using the wrong pronoun would not result in anyone going to jail. In fact, to this day, zero people have gone to jail. So don't even get me started with who is responsible for a surge in transphobia, because I have a pretty long list of people that Ethan would probably consider to be political allies that are actually responsible for people becoming annoyed or hateful towards trans people, and I know he would never condemn.
Wait, she's doing the Ethan is friends with trans activists who are just too radical, and that's really what makes people hate transphobic. God, Blaire White's such a dumbass. She's so fucking stupid. Oh my God. I really just one debate, 30 minutes in a call with her. 30 minutes in a call with her. And I could make her cry. Guaranteed. 30 minutes in a call with her, and I can make her cry. 100%.
Them because they're on his side politically. Because again, no concept that anyone on his side of the political aisle could be doing anything wrong. Not to mention, people have been put in jail for misgendering in Canada. You have here a Canadian man.
Hey, is this the story I think it is? Is this Blaire White blatantly lying again? Canadian man jailed for calling his biologically feminine baby as daughter. Wait, is this this is the guy that was jailed for the contempt of court thing, right? Like this was the guy who was like abusive, right? The kid was trans and the mother was supportive, and this guy was like, hold on, what was the actual story? Here, let me look into it really quickly. Yep, violation of court order. Hold on. Here's an NY Post article. Father arrested for discussing child's gender transition in defiance of court order. A Canadian man was arrested this week after violating a court order that banned him from speaking publicly about his son's gender transition, so trans man, FTM. The man, whose identity is reportedly under a publication banned by British Columbia Court of Appeals to protect his child, was found in contempt of court and arrested Tuesday for calling the teen his daughter and publicly referring to him with the pronouns she and her, according to the Post Millennial. The teenager was born as a female and reportedly identifies as transgender and prefers to use male pronouns. The father reportedly began litigation against the teen's mother. Wait, teen? Wait, I actually love this. I like how... So this is clearly a conservative outlet that Blaire White pulled this from. This picture of the guy, this is the New York Times, this is the New York Post article. This is a picture of the guy, now, and then this is the picture that the right-wing news outlets used, that Blaire White used. Look how much younger he and the kid are here. They used a post-transition picture of the kid that is look how much older the guy looks here. How much older do you think the kid is? This kid might be 17. Pre-transition, yeah. This kid might be a 17-year-old, completely passing trans dude at this point that the dad is misgendering here. And, for a fact that they used a picture of, when this teenage kid was literally, 6 or 5 on purpose. You know that was intentional. And you know it's intentional that Blaire used this particular picture on purpose. We've established in the past that Blaire is a liar and loves to clip and cherry pick articles very, very dishonestly to make her points. Yeah, so basically he was held in contempt of court because of he was violating a court order. That's literally all it was. It wasn't because of misgendering. It wasn't because of Bill C-16. Just a blatant lie. Literally just blatant lie. We just factually just debunked a blatant lie from Blaire White. There's no other way to say it. Xander God moment. V-Raptor, thank you for the tier 2 sub gifted to Miss Newsable. I really appreciate that. Really kind of you. Says, did you hear of Blaire White changing her political compass results to have her be lib-right when she got lib-left? That is another example of Blaire White definitively lying. Yes, for those of you guys who don't know, Blaire White did a video where she took a political compass test and she actually ended up getting lib-left, so bottom left of the quadrant of the political compass test. That ended up being her results. But she knew for a fact that would upset her audience. So she went on Googled Libertarian Political Compass Test result, got an image from Google Images, forgot to close the tab, then used Inspect Element to replace the image of her score with the Libertarian one, and then uploaded the video. But she forgot to close her Google Images tab where you could blatantly see in the tab name, Libertarian Political Compass Test result. So you could see where she forgot to close the tab. And the way that the Political Compass Test website works is when you get your results, the URL of the site at the top of the screen is set. That URL will always give you that same result, right? So when people put in her URL, they were able to find her actual result being bottom left. Because she forgot to change or hide her URL where people could actually find what her actual score truly was. So yeah, Blaire White, as we've established, a just genuine, complete piece of shit, outright liar, and will literally she's just a liar. There's really no other way to do it. We've caught her in so many lies on this channel. It's surprising to me at this point she still has any credibility.
In jail for calling his biologically female child as daughter. And is that something that's widespread? No. However, if you're going to make the claim that 0 people have been jailed for misgendering in Canada,
I like how the one story she brought up was a lie.
Incorrect with that as
the
well.
One story.
He also accused Jordan Peterson of spreading COVID misinfo. Let's move on to that part of the accusation. So this happened after Jordan Peterson actually defended Joe Rogan after a list of 270 doctors condemned him for COVID misinformation, which, by the way, the word misinformation is almost always code for information I don't like, by the way. But
Dude, you guys remember Trump and what was it? Alternate facts? You guys remember that? Hold on. Dude, we're going back. We're going back to 2016, dude. Holy shit. Do you guys remember alternate facts? 2017. Sorry. Alternative facts was a phrase used by U.S. counselor to the president Kellyanne Conway during a Meet the Press interview on January 22nd, 2017. So very, very, very early 2017, so almost 2016. in which she defended White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer's false statement about the attendance numbers of Donald Trump's inauguration as president of the United States. Yeah, so it was a very white. It was a lie over something inconsequential. It was just like how many people turned up to President Trump's inauguration. It was the birth of alternative facts. I'm telling you, we're going back in time, full cycle, 5-year cycle, 6-year cycle, somewhere on those lines. This is the new alternative facts, dude. I'm telling you. Fact check just means misinformation. Just means information I disagree with, as in the left disagrees with. Like, dude, it's doctors, scientists, and academic institutions. Like, I don't know what to tell you. They tend to lean left because the left is right. Like, there's only so long that I can entertain the discourse before we have to acknowledge the obvious elephant in the room that conservatives are just wrong. And there's only so far every discussion can go if they're not willing to change their minds. If they're just wrong and don't exist in reality, you know?
However, he was absolutely right to defend Joe Rogan because, as it turns out, only 87 of those 270 doctors were actually doctors. The list was full of consultants, veterinarians, a social worker, podcast hosts, and some doctors, yes, but clearly it's just...
Okay, hold on. Can we... Oh, sorry. Wrong scene. I'm not ending. Can we call that out really quick? Hold on. 270 doctors. Let's see if Blaire White is lying here. A menace to public health. Doctors demand Spotify puts an end to COVID lies on Joe Rogan Experience. Unlike many platforms, Spotify doesn't have a clear policy prohibiting misinformation. 270 physicians and scientists are hoping to change that. As an infectious disease epidemiologist and research fellow at Boston Children's Hospital, he debunks health misinformation on Instagram, where she has more than 380,000 followers. Jessica Malady Rivera regularly receives tips from her followers about viral content to debunk. A few weeks ago, blah, 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 blah. Let's find the fucking part of this that's important. Rivera is one of 270 doctors, physicians, and science educators who signed an open letter calling on Spotify, which obtained exclusively streaming rights to the Joe Rogan Experience and a reported $100 million deal, to take action against misinformation on the platform, such as that contained in the interview with Malone. With an estimated 11 million listeners per episode, JRE, oh my God, JRE, which is hosted exclusively on Spotify, is the world's largest podcast and has tremendous influence, the letter reads. Spotify has a responsibility to mitigate the spread of misinformation on its platform, though the company has no misinformation policy. Whew. Yeah, so basically it's just a bunch of like doctors, physicians, and science educators called out Joe Rogan in an open letter, as well as Spotify. It's all that happened. So once again, Blaire White not only lying about who was part of this letter, not only lying about that, but also lying about the contents of said letter, right? Like what it was meant to do. It wasn't like it wasn't like a bunch of scientists saying Joe Rogan has spread misinformation. It was a bunch of medical and academic professionals, people who have dedicated their lives to this field, making an open letter calling for Spotify to do something to stem the flow of misinformation that has been platformed on Joe Rogan's podcast. That was the actual thing that it was, not what fucking Blaire White described it as.
An attempt to slander Joe Rogan. It's just a baseless attack to say 270 doctors united against him, when in fact, that's just incorrect. So Jordan Peterson was objectively correct to defend Joe Rogan in that situation. And COVID misinfo coming from Ethan Klein is pretty rich, considering he said that the protests in the summer of 2020 didn't contribute at all to COVID, which you can agree with the protests and you can be on the side of the protest, but you can't deny that in the midst of a pandemic, tens of thousands of
Didn't the data actually show that those BLM protests didn't contribute at all, like significantly to the pandemic, like to COVID numbers? Wasn't there like a shit ton of data that showed that? Like what didn't it turn out like, and it makes sense though, right? Like most people who are going to be protesting like in favor of like BLM, for example, are going to be wearing masks, not just because they're more likely to be like believers in COVID and don't want to get it, but also because they recognize that being at a BLM protests means that if their faces get seen, they could lose their job and get arrested, so they hide their faces a lot. So typically, a lot of those protests are filled with people who are wearing masks anyway. They were all wearing masks before COVID happened. Wasn't that the stereotype of Antifa people, though? Wasn't the stereotype of Antifa people going all the way back to like 2014, like masked and hooded, hoodlums, I guess, like outlaws or whatever, like always wearing masks and balaclavas and stuff like that? Like, of course they weren't spreading COVID as much. Yeah, Xander Hall, it was a wash, basically, because COVID spread among the protesters somewhat, but also more people stayed home because of the protests. Oh, so it balanced out, basically. So because of the protests, so many people stayed home that the amount of people who got COVID from the protests was about the same as if the protests hadn't happened and people were going out and doing things and not staying home because of the protests. So it was just a wash. Things would have been different no other way, or either way.
People getting in close contact in every major city in the country didn't really affect anything. Like, really? But we know when it's politically...
Oh yeah, here's a Healthline article. Yeah, why the Black Lives Matter protests didn't contribute to a COVID-19 surge. There isn't evidence that Black Lives Matter protests have led to a noticeable increase in COVID-19 cases, despite early concerns from health officials. The reasons for the lack of transmission. By the way, health officials initially did have concerns about these protests, but when the data showed that they weren't a concern when it came to COVID spread, then they changed their minds. But like, they'll literally trick you. Like, you got to be careful with these conservatives. They'll gaslight you in mass into believing that medical professionals didn't originally push a different idea than they do now. The reasons for lack of transmission likely have to do with the protesters being outside in the wind and sun, and most of them wearing masks. People who attend other outdoor events, such as going to the beach or ball games, tend to share indoor facilities like bathrooms, shops, and restaurants. Blaire White lying again.
Convenient, your side can do literally anything. We got it. So you can poke holes in Ethan's arguments all day long, as we've been doing, but what does all this really mean, right? It means, like I said, first of all, he is afraid of his own woke audience canceling him, so he's trying to, in my opinion, get ahead of it and condemning him and saying, look, I don't actually support Jordan Peterson anymore, please don't cancel me, which again, spineless. And I have to just say, on a human level, Jordan Peterson didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve these attacks from Ethan. Jordan Peterson, from everything that I can see, seems like a genuinely very nice man who helps a lot of people and has changed a lot of people's lives for the better. There's a huge problem in society.
I'm sure that's actually true, though.
And people have to have such blinders on to ever see someone like Jordan Peterson as extreme. It's the same as people who call me far right. I did a stream with Joe Rogan on Timcast a few months ago.
Is it, once again, I say this like every stream at this point, is it not like reassuring that we're in the right, that conservatives can't even correctly state our opinion? Isn't it like always reassuring that we're in the right when our political opponents can't even correctly repeat our opinion to us? Nobody on the left is saying Jordan Peterson is an extremist or far right. The argument is, and oddly enough, she even acknowledged it before, the argument is that Jordan Peterson is a gateway to far-right ideas, that the people that Jordan Peterson engages with and the type of rhetoric that he engages with sometimes, or that he uses sometimes, is a good gateway drug almost to the alt-right, you know? You know how like DARE campaigns used to say weed is a gateway drug to other drugs? And that is partly true, I will admit. I mean, every other drug I've tried did happen after weed, and I probably wouldn't have tried those drugs if I hadn't already tried weed. So there is merit in weed being a gateway drug. That is probably true. In that same way, Jordan Peterson is like a gateway drug to the alt-right. Some people just like Jordan Peterson. Some people will just watch Jordan Peterson. That's the furthest they'll ever go. And Jordan Peterson gives them some good life advice, and that's it, you know, and they have a good life. Other people, though, they have a little Jordan Peterson, but then maybe they have a little Alex Jones, you know? And then maybe they have a little bit of Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes is basically the equivalent politically of having a heroin addiction. So, yeah, I think that analogy worked well.
And I think it was Vice wrote an article calling me far right. If you think, I'm going to speak in third person and kind of just invoke the sort of like public perception there is of me, like the sort of public figure version of my being, right? If you think Blaire White is far right, you have an extremely childlike view
No, your
an
political
ignorant
compass
view
result was bottom left.
of the actual opinions people on the actual far right hold. If you think I'm far right or Jordan Peterson is extreme, like you have no clue. And that's okay if you don't have any clue, but stop slandering people because you don't have.
Yeah, I tried cocaine.
So
once.
moving on to his attacks on Joe Rogan. So Joe, as of late, has been hosting doctors on his podcast and having questions and conversations about vaccines that honestly are just not questions and conversations you see in mainstream media, which unfortunately is the lens and the standards by which most people see.
Okay, here's my opinion on Joe Rogan, all right? Joe Rogan is not a very interesting guy, okay? All Joe Rogan is a good interviewer, okay? And that's something I'll give him, okay? Joe Rogan is a fantastic interviewer, okay? Does anyone disagree with me there? He's a great interviewer, all right? I've actually watched some episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience where he has like actual scientists and physicists and stuff like that on his show, like actual real like professionals in a certain field to talk about stuff. And he's a great interviewer. He's really, really good at asking the questions that you want to hear the answers to. He's really good at that. So if you're watching an interview or an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience where it's, not like a politically charged thing where Joe Rogan's platforming some right winger and not pushing back against any misinformation, it's a good time. The issue I have with Joe Rogan, and that the vast majority of people have with Joe Rogan, is just the people who he platforms so unquestionably. His episode of Bernie Sanders, I actually haven't even seen that. I've been meaning to watch it. Should we watch that on stream? Well, we can't actually because copyright.
The world. So he's had Dr. Robert Malone on, who is a virologist and the chief architect of the mRNA technology, as well.
Wait, wasn't that guy a fucking fraud though? Hold on. That guy, we fucking called this out in a debate, didn't we? We on Omegle, we fucking debunked this. A guy on Omegle said that Joe Rogan had the inventor of mRNA vaccines on his thing, and it turned out it wasn't true. He's not the inventor of mRNA vaccines. This guy is like this particular dude, I believe. I know his face. This dude's been discredited to fuck insofar as COVID.
The mRNA technology, as well as cardiologist Peter McCullough, and he's having conversations. He's asking questions. The gist, if you watch Joe Rogan's show, you would know that he doesn't claim to be any sort of expert on vaccines or viruses or anything. He simply asks questions. In fact, I went to one of his shows recently here in Austin, and he opened up by saying how stupid it was that people really saw him as some sort of health expert, that you have to be an idiot to take health advice from him, because he is.
God, dude. There's a few non-explicitly political issues that the right turns into issues, right? Like the idea of public figures being responsible for the behavior of their audience. The right, for some reason, even though this isn't even a political issue, for some reason seems to be like completely fucking opposed to the idea of large public figures taking responsibility for the effects of their audience. I don't know what it is about that. Maybe it's because they know that their rhetoric has a harmful effect on the world and they don't want to have to face consequences for it. That's a possibility. That could be it.
He isn't an expert. He's simply having conversations, which in a sane world should be allowed. Joe has never once told people to not get vaccinated. And we talked about this even when I was on his show. He's never told anyone that. He's simply said that each individual person should have the freedom and autonomy to make their own decisions about their own bodies and health based on their own risk-benefit analysis, which again, in a sane world would not be radical, would not be something people should be attacking anyone for, right? He's always advocated, talk to your doctor.
So the problem is that when you say anything other than, like, here's the issue. Whether or not the vaccines are safe or not is not a contested issue. It's just not up for debate. It's agreed upon by the medical community overwhelmingly. Any opinion other than go get vaccinated or you're a public health nuisance, a public health danger, any opinion other than that, any statement other than that from a public health figure is akin to spreading medical misinformation. I'll bite that bullet. Yeah, I completely believe that.
And do what's right for you. In the meantime, I have questions. Questions should not be a sin. Questions should not be censored. We are living in a very terrifying time when you are not allowed to question things.
Dude, okay, maybe their rhetoric just hasn't changed. It's been like this whole time, and I'm just seeing things that back up what I believe is happening when they've always been there. But does this not remind you of the conservative just asking questions talking point from back in the day? I feel like I haven't heard it in a long time, and it's just kind of started to rear its ugly head again. Just asking questions. Doesn't it feel like we're seeing this again more recently, like more often now? Because that was the talking point conservatives used back in the day, that no, we're not Nazis, we're not white supremacists, we're not, white nationalists, we're just asking questions. We're just platforming people like, Richard Spencer and whatnot because we're curious. We're just asking questions. It's just the marketplace of ideas. It's just we're having discussions. And that line of thinking eventually led to the complete collapse of right-wing YouTube, at least as it stood back then. So really curious to see how that line of logic being repeated again in 2022 is going to work out for them.
So Ethan, who has in the past begged Joe to do his podcast, which is so typical of these very woke creators, by the way. I have a list of about 10 to 20 people who are on that sort of side of the YouTube sphere who have in the past asked me multiple times to come on their channel, work with them, kiss my ass, whatever, and then 6 months later have an I hate Blaire White video. Typical behavior of these little chihuahuas that want to bite at people's ankles and then... So his attacks on Joe went as followed. Joe Rogan, who lives on elk meat, egg yolk, and human growth hormone with lungs full of tar, thinks he's healthier than everyone. First of all, that's like something a 5-year-old would say. You think you're healthier than everyone. He's never said anything as stupid as that. Maybe that's how your brain perceives it because you might be stupid, Ethan. Elk meat is healthy. Egg yolk is healthy. And human growth hormone, he talked about being on TRT. He talked about taking hormones. I take hormones. I'm a very healthy person. Lots of people take hormones.
I saw Xander Hall appear in a Noah Samson video, probably not in a positive context, Daffy559. Unless he put out a new one recently where he mentions me in a positive context. Because the only context I know of him mentioning me is with the Corvidae debate, which was very much not a positive reference. You are totally wrong in all topics. Your reality is a sham source.
Sources. Dude, trust me. Citation 1, it is known. Citation 2, it is known. Citation 3, it is known. And Citation 4, it is known. Footnote 1. This was once revealed to me in a dream.
Average conservative talking points. Yeah, I mean, like, if you really dig into the average conservative brain, that is where they just... That would be pretty akin to their justification of all their ideas. God damn, I've really turned this 15-minute Blaire White video into a nearly 1-hour segment, huh?
Hormones. Menopausal women, men, trans women,
Sorry, Cherry.
Something tells me that if he were criticizing me, he wouldn't include my use of hormones in the attacks on me. So why would you do it to Joe? Why is it okay for someone like me to be on hormones, but not Joe? And the implication that elk meat and egg yolk is unhealthy, like, what do you live on? Dairy Queen and chicken nuggets?
Wait, when someone says you live on something, the implication is it's all you eat. The joke is that Joe Rogan eats nothing but protein, which isn't really good for you.
It's like... Joe Rogan doesn't think he's healthier than everyone, but anyone with a set of 2 working eyes could see he's much healthier than you.
I want to remind you, by the way, I feel like, do you guys remember when the internet, like, I feel like people, like, conservatives on the internet will be, like, pro-edgy humor, like, pro-edgy, like, filthy Frank tier humor 1 second, and then change their minds when it's not politically effective for them anymore. That image of H3H3 was an image he put on the internet on purpose because it's funny, and that's his style of humor. And he knows he's not, like, in shape. He makes jokes about having a fupa. Anyone who knows anything about H3H3 knows this is not, like, a good dunk for Blaire White. By the way, yeah, fucking Joe Rogan takes steroids and eats nothing but fucking protein. People joke about it. People make fun of him for it. Yeah, like, what do you want? What do you want, Blaire? You want a cookie?
And if you think that sounds mean, why is it mean when people question Ethan's health, but not mean when they question Joe's? Is it because Ethan really is unhealthy and y'all know in your heart that Joe isn't? Exactly. And who gives a shit if Ethan is unhealthy? I don't care what he eats. I don't care how he lives his life. His lifestyle has no effect on me. However, again, you cannot throw rocks in a glass house. And I'm not taking...
Wait, he literally makes jokes about having a fupa, and he does the fucking... the neck thing on purpose. What are you talking about? Blaire!
Health advice from either Joe Rogan or Ethan Klein because neither one of them are my doctor. However, if I had to pick one of them to be my doctor, it would definitely not be this one. He went on to say, this MFer is such a bitch that when he got COVID, he threw the kitchen sink at it. If you're so healthy, just write it out like you say a man should. Again, he's never said that. He's never said that. He's never said anything as stupid as...
I will say some parts of Ethan Klein's tweet here a little bit, like, yeah, I agree with the criticism of Joe Rogan principally, but some of these particular jabs are just overextensions, you know? Like you got to make sure not to overextend when you criticize someone who like has warranted criticisms against them, right? Otherwise, you just end up looking insane.
Men should ride out COVID. It's like there's a filter on Ethan's brain that he can only perceive like the most childlike caricatures of people he's beefing with. Like,
Jesus Christ,
and should
Blaire.
we constitute what Ethan
Talk
is
about
saying here as COVID
projection.
misinfo? Because vaccinated or not, when you do contract COVID or any sickness, a common cold, you are supposed to throw the kitchen sink at it. You're supposed to
No, you're
vitamin
not.
D, zinc, vitamin C.
What?
Eat healthy. Like, why is that?
Whoa, okay. You're supposed to eat healthy and exercise and stuff. You are not supposed to throw the kitchen sink at it when you're sick and take all the medicines you have in your fucking drawer. What are you talking about, Blaire? Blaire, what the fuck? This could get your fans killed. What the fuck? You do not throw the kitchen sink at it when you get sick.
Welcome to
That's not what you're
capitalism,
supposed to do. Oh my God. How is it possible for human beings to be this low IQ?
That's something to attack someone about. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? For you to demonize throwing in the kitchen sink and taking vitamins, like, are you putting people at risk, Ethan? Are people going to read your?
I bet Blaire White takes antibiotics when she's got the flu. Blaire White, when she gets a cold or has the flu, I guarantee she takes antibiotics, 100%.
tweets and think that it's a bad idea to take vitamins when they're sick with anything, by the way? And tar in his lungs. Joe doesn't smoke cigarettes. And if it's a dig about
He
smoking
smokes a
weed,
lot of-
then
he
we're
does a lot of
demonizing
drugs.
weed too. Like, what is wrong with you? List of things Ethan Klein has no concept of: eating healthy, smoking weed, taking vitamins. Good to know. What this all really comes
Also, it wasn't vitamins. He threw... Joe Rogan took actual medications, not vitamins.
down to is I genuinely feel bad for anyone, especially like kids who are watching Ethan Klein or reading his tweets and thinking.
Also, imagine like the idea of these creators thinking that what they do doesn't have like an impact on their audience, right? If you guys found out I had COVID and I was taking a certain medicine and you had COVID, would you guys not do what I'm doing, the YouTuber that you watch and look up to? Like, you'd probably think, oh, if he's fucking taking that medicine and he's got COVID, then I need to be taking that medicine. That's what I'd do, frankly. If a YouTuber I watched and look up to was doing that, that's exactly what I'd fucking do. Maybe not all of you, but certainly some of you in chat would do that.
In any way that this guy knows what the fuck he's talking about almost anything. Because I haven't seen one thing in all the tweets I've read for him, one even like small aspect of what he says that has any validity or truth behind it. You almost have to
IQ is
try
very
this
low,
hard to be
Blaire.
wrong. Like, a normal person is like accidentally wrong about things. Ethan is almost intentionally like, I'm just gonna pick the worst possible takes. I'm going to say the exact opposite of what is true, and I'm going to completely mischaracterize everyone. And honestly, when exactly did it become the standard that rather than countering someone's speech, debunking them, proving them wrong, when did that switch to actually we have to silence our opponent's speech, we have to censor them, we have to erase them, we have to pretend as if they didn't say it rather than say something back to them? What you're really doing is actually proving that.
I mean, like I said, this is literally all just straw men. Like, this is literally copy paste 2016 talking points. We're going back in time. I really, like, is it getting repetitive? Guys, I'm actually curious. Is it getting repetitive that I keep bringing up the, like, cycle thing over and over again? Or do you like that I keep on pointing out, like, how evident it is? Are you guys fine with it? Do you like it? Do you want me to stop? I'm really curious because I feel like almost every stream we keep encountering more examples of how it feels like online politics is going back to something more akin to that of Gamergate.
Your ideas, your opinions, and your stances have no merit whatsoever. They can't stand up on their own. And honestly, Jordan Peterson is not the smartest person on the planet. Joe Rogan is not the healthiest person on the planet. But Jordan Peterson is smarter than Ethan Klein, and Joe Rogan is healthier than Ethan Klein. And that's on period. Love you guys. Make sure you subscribe to this channel as well as my second channel. Follow me on.
What a great video. What a high octane, high IQ Blaire White video we just forced ourselves to watch. Well, interrupting her outro, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. It helps out the channel and the video a lot more than you even realize, and it just takes a second. So go ahead and hit that like button. Whether you're watching the stream live right now or you're watching the video, hit that like button. Helps either way. Also, if you want to see more of my content here on YouTube, consider, subscribing, ringing the bell icon, and hitting all notifications so that YouTube actually tells you when I upload anything or go live on the platform, because they just won't do it otherwise. You can also follow all my social media, including joining my fan Discord, all linked down below in both the stream and video description. Definitely follow my Twitter. That's where all the spicy memes and stuff like that are going on. And of course, if you've got the money for it, you don't need it for anything else, and you just don't know what to do with it, we are really close to our dono goal right now. So consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub over on my website, donating over on YouTube, donating a Prime subbing or gifting a sub, or donating bits over on Twitch, donating through Streamlabs, or even pledging on Patreon. You can also buy merch. I forgot to mention the merch. Merch is up and on sale in the link in the down below. Link down in the fucking down in the description. If you want Xander Hall merch, go pick some up. It's on sale, and yeah, go get it. It's in the description. Merch link. Go get some. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.